Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the AI InterConnect podcast. I'm your host, Laurent. On this show, I sit down with founders and operators to understand what is really happening behind the scene, what works, what breaks, and what is coming next. AI InterConnect is a platform where we bring real conversation from the field, not theory. Today I'm joined by Ousmane Conde, Chairman and CEO of Wodi Money. And Wodi help banks expand without building branches by turning local store into financial access points for underserved community. Ousmane, thanks for being here. Very, very happy to have you on the show. Wonderful. I want to say something just because you just mentioned it before. Wodi money. Then Wodi means money in Guinean language. I love that. It's beautiful. Then Usman, let's start with your background. Listeners, understand the path that led you here. You have a strong background in AI and enterprise systems, and now you're building a fintech and financial inclusion. This is a rare combination. Usman, how did your background in AI and large scale system lead you to build Woody and focus on financial inclusion?
I think it all goes back to my beginnings, right? And I was born in a country where more than 97% of the population is still unbanked today. And growing up, I used to watch my mom hide money in the mattress. So when she comes back from home with weathered hand from the 12, 15-hour shift she's been doing, the only safe place for her to keep her money was in the mattress. And there are a couple of reasons to do that. But I was very young back then and I knew something was terribly wrong. One of the reasons it's because at the very young age, I still remember this incident. We had to change the mattress at some time. And the way they hide money in the mattress is never at the same place because you always expect to get, towards the thieves to break in. And when we needed to change the mattress, my sister and I, we were playing at who is going to find the money that my mom could not retrieve. Growing up, I needed to solve that problem because my mom is part of the 3 billion people, 40% of the global population that lives in a shadow or mattress economy. Now, I'm a US citizen in America here, the first largest economy in the world. That's 87 million people still living in a shadow economy. 25% of the US population is in this situation. And it's a global pandemic. Now, I think it's something worth solving. It's a 2.7, according to Visa, it's a $2.7 trillion in addition to the economy if this problem was solved. So that's why I'm leveraging my knowledge and experience in AI to solve the problem in finance.
Wait, this is beautiful. Okay, great beginning. Then, um, at the at the beginning, what did you underestimate about this market?
Why did I underestimate about this market? I really did not know the massive scale of the problem. I thought I was solving the problem for the unbanked and the underserved. And I definitely did not know that this problem would be a crisis in the largest economy in the world. But what got me very surprised was the realization of the fact that problem we're solving is no longer a mattress problem. The mattress has moved from a physical space to a digital space. When you leave your money, anytime you take your money out of the banking system and you put it in a cold, dead, hard asset like gold or cryptocurrency, you're basically unbanking yourself. And I realized that This problem is why many nations today are struggling financially. We saw it happening in Iberia. We saw it happening in Japan at a massive scale. And it's happening today in my home country where people just don't have cash to operate. So what do? They turn back to keeping money at home, under the bed, or in the mattress, just like my mom did. That I did not know was the problem that we were up to solving.
Yeah, it's very, very true, very nice. What stand out with Woody is that you're not just building another digital bank. You are rethinking distribution through physical store. When you explain Woody to someone outside fintech, how do you describe what you actually do and who you help?
Wonderful question. Woody provides the financial infrastructure for every bank, for every shop to become a bank branch, and for every phone to become a payment address. And that solves a lot of problems. Instead of spending hours trying to reach your bank to deposit money, cash in, cash out, or make a simple transactions, or open a bank account, or order a Visa card. Now you have the luxury to just walk down the street at the neighborhood store, whether it's the barber shop, the bakery, the grocery store, and do the same banking transactions that you would do otherwise at a bank. For banks, that's a huge problem that we've solved because expanding and building a bank branch and maintaining it could cost up to $2.5 million per month. I don't know if you knew that. And unfortunately, the areas that are left out are the underserved or underbanked areas. I'm thinking about the Bronx in New York, which is one of our main go-to-market hub. Upper East Side, New York, Upper East Side, New York, we're talking about Malcolm X Boulevard, right? These areas have high population and underbanked people, and the luxury of them being able to just go to the shop and deposit money, withdraw money, pay bills, send money back home, obtain a Visa card, a bank account is very, very important. It's something worth keeping you up at night.
Yes, definitely. I like this. Awesome. Which type of client gets the most value today? Banks, merchants, or end users?
Woody is one of the rare companies that provide added benefits for all these different market segments. We already talked about banks. Woody enable banks to expand rapidly without spending millions of dollars and reach out market segment that they did not even know exist or they could not financially support. Because remember, the bank does not pay the store owner. The store owner already pays the rent every time. So for banks, especially credit union or smaller banks, it's a very interesting way to scale. Now, for the shop owner, they make on average 20 to 40% in additional income because they're now a bank branch. So people that come normally to buy bread, milk, can now come and also conduct the banking services. And the shop owner will earn 20 to 40% on each transaction. Now, the end user has the most benefit because especially the unbanked and the underbanked, that's why we really focus on areas with a large population of underbanked, underserved civilians. For them, we are including them in the digital economy. We're including them in the global economy. And by doing so, they can live their life based on their own dreams, talents, and aspiration. We're giving them access that they did not have otherwise. And that access enabled them to build their dreams. And that becomes a story for them to write.
Wonderful. What part of your model creates the most leverage? The agent network, the card, or the infrastructure?
Yeah. So it's a combination of all. The model with the most kind of, how could I say it? The moat, right? The biggest moat is definitely in the agent network because you have to think about human psychology. You have to put you have to put yourself in the shoes of an unbanked person. Most of the time, when a person is unbanked, it also means they are analphabets. So they are not really good with technology. Matter of fact, 67% of transactions are still made in cash for that reason. They rather go and speak to a human to help them do the transactions because they have a fear of sending money to the wrong person, or they just don't know how to play with technology. So having a network, a vast network of agency banking or bank branches or shops helps a lot into our business model. So that's really our moat. Now, that by itself doesn't solve the problem, right? Because this system exists already. It's actually a concept that I've imported from Africa. In Africa, there are more banks than in the US. People don't necessarily know that. The reason is because every shop is a bank. Literally, you don't even need to ask. But the reason why that model by itself wouldn't scale is because you need a financial infrastructure that's secure and robust to kind of increase people trust in the system and enable these shops to onboard within 5 minutes within the platform. So that's what we did. We built a financial infrastructure that connect the global financial market with the unbanked economy, enabling them to digitize cash and join the network within 5 minutes. So the infrastructure and the mode will be my top two.
Awesome. Unbelievable. Building a fintech infrastructure that connects banks, merchant, and users is not simple. There's many moving parts, obviously. Right now, what feels like the hardest part of running and scaling Woody?
The hardest parts of running and scaling Woody is it's an exciting part as well. There's no downs, there's no uh, negative aspect for a store to join the Woody network. More than 99% of the cases, I generally don't like to say 100%, but in more than 99% of the cases, a shop owner would always say, sign me up. Now, we're a small company solving a massive global problem in the US and expanding in 40 countries. Now, the opportunity is extremely big. We're talking trillions of dollars per year of opportunity. And it's still an untapped market, which is very, very rare in the economy these days, especially in the finance world, right? Now, the question is, and the challenge is, how can you maximize the opportunity by onboarding as many stores in as many places as you can? Now, it's a universal problem that we're solving, right? We can solve the problem in the US, in Africa, it's massive, in the global south, in Dubai, in Kenya, in India, right? In China. China is the first country with this problem. And now the question comes in. You have all these eggs. Feels like you are in a candy shop, a kid in a candy shop, but you get to pick one candy at the time. Whereas you know that you have access to all the candies. So it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, then has anything changed recently that made things more complex? Maybe with AI or maybe not?
I think things are getting easier. Problems is getting easier to solve. Because as an AI company, as a, expert, my PhD research is in AI and biometric identification. It gets easier and at the same time it gets harder. You would think that the percentage of benefits you get from leveraging AI to solve a finance problem is the same percentage of inconvenience you get. Why? Because of the affluence of deep fakes. Right now, you can generate a fake ID in no time. I think the CEO of OpenAI, recently I saw a video of him saying that is amazed how he still sees banks conduct KYCs. KYCs, know your customers, or identification of the users today, because anyone can just fake an ID and allowing people to move millions of dollars with today's technology is just unbelievable, right? So, and that's the specific areas where we've already solved that problem at Wodi, but we are kind of trying to make this a normal thing in the industry. Whereas your financial identity will actually be your biometric fingerprint. That's a problem that has not been fully solved yet at a large scale. Think about the fact that instead of scanning a government ID that could be fake, or answering some questions that they think you are the only one to know, now you yourself is the identity to conduct the transaction. It's not an easy problem. We call it this deceptively simple problem. When you use Apple face match with Apple, you just scan your face and it unlocks your phone. It seems very seamless and simple, but down it's very deeply rooted into the core of deep learning, AI, and neural network, because there are a few things. If you do it right, you're exposing massive amount of user information, right? And if it's too sophisticated, people just won't use it. So it needs to be seamless, right? So you're doing this for financial transactions. So what we do nowadays is building that biometric identity so that if Laurent goes through the systems in France and suddenly Laurent is in Kenya, wants to conduct the transactions, it's done seamlessly. The most important part of this time around, we cannot forget about the unbanked. The global system, as you know, was built without the unbanked in mind. If you don't have the document, you don't have a government ID, or you don't have a social security number, you can't open a bank account. You can't open a PayPal account. You can't open a Google account, a Google Wallet, or an Apple Pay. You are locked out of the financial system. So this time around, we want to make it right by the unbanked and the underbanked, the 3 billion people that are left out. But now, most of these people are living in areas where the technology infrastructure is not advanced. Internet, people are still using the GPRS network. We're talking kilobytes of data per second, right? Right now in the global north, we are at gigabytes of data per second, right? So you want people to be able to identify themselves in low network environment or no network environment or with a touch phone. So it's a very complex problem that we're solving. And that for me is the biggest challenge. And I'm very glad that's also my PhD thesis.
Beautiful. Okay, then you know what you're talking about. Okay, then when when you look at your growth, are you seeing more traction from large institution partnership or from volume on the consumer side?
That's a wonderful question. I'm trying to see how to answer that. From the face of it, the traction is coming from end users, small business owners, unbanked and underserved area in the US and abroad. As I mentioned, the Bronx, New York is one of our hubs. But we've seen a lot of interest for financial institutions. I mean, banks can serve this fragment of the population. They can profitably serve them today. So it's kind of a dream come true for financial institutions, especially credit unions, and this bank is in this market. So yes, from the face of it, it's transactions, traction from end users. But the real winner here would be the financial institution, because we are giving them a compounding effect without having them spend millions of dollars.
Love it. From what I see across markets, there's a lot of noise around fintech and AI, but very few companies actually solve access to a in a practical way, from your vantage point in fintech and financial inclusion, what shifts matters most right now, but it's still underappreciated?
The shift that matters right now and still underappreciated, I think, is the speed of execution. And I still don't understand why not enough companies and individuals are rushing towards that. We are facing the biggest technological revolution in the human, at least our mankind history. And today you can build almost anything just by talking to your machine. Anything you have in mind, you have the intelligence is free now. I don't know. I mean, this is a big thing with the democratization of AI. Intelligence as we know it, it's a free commodity. So you can just do anything with it. Now, the question is if everybody has the same level of IQ and intelligence, how do we live in a society that's more profitable? That's where execution comes in. It's no longer about do I have the technology or do I have the know how? That is free. The question is how fast and how well do I execute? And AI doesn't solve that. The execution is you have to have a strategy. You need to know how you're going to move from A to Z. Do you go from A to B and then B to C, or you go from A to F and then go back to D and then move to B? All these patterns are possible today. So that's why execution is a very big skill set that I think everybody should learn to have.
But what is widely misunderstood about financial inclusion or neobanks?
I think this is the best question so far. People think
No.
that financial inclusion, it's about banking, it's only about banking the unbanked, about enabling people without government identification or social security number to participate in the global economy, or the thing that is a third world country problem, right? Which is partially true. But this is a macroeconomic problem across the board. You know, there is a mathematical formula that they use in the finance to calculate the GDP of a nation. Equal PQ, right? M is the monetary value, V is the velocity of moving the money, P is the price tag, which goes up and down depending on inflation and deflation, and Q is the GDP. And when you live in a nation where people are not trusting the banking system. And we're starting to see that even here in the US because of the geopolitical instability, right? People think that it's safer to have a safety net, right? So seeing the money, hard cash, is a safety net. So that creates a high problem of deflation because, again, money doesn't move. If money does not move in any industry, it doesn't matter how much print money you print, it's just not going to solve the problem. And unless we solve this problem for the unbanked, unless we give people incentive to contribute to the global economy, to pump the money into the economy, we're still going to be facing this low GDP increase problem across the board. This is not a global south problem. This is a global problem that needs to solve. And that's how we started Wodi. We started this as a global company solving this problem at scale across the board. We solved it in Africa with millions of users. We're doing it here in the US through partnership with small shops and banks, and we're connecting those disconnected worlds. I think that's it's really a big problem for nations and central banks across the world to take a closer look on.
This is definitely a huge endeavor that you started. You are building something that sits between infrastructure, banking, and distribution. That requires strong focus. Looking ahead 12 to 18 months, what does success realistically looks like for you, for Woody?
Yes. So we just got our banking license sponsorships and finally able to operate at scale, because one thing we didn't want to do is to operate and not be compliant. And we already had a very large number of users, millions of users, and about 10,000 shops into our network. So right now we are activating this network and these users. On average, a store would process $3,000 in the slow days. And in the next 30 days, we are going to have 100 stores in the Bronx, New York active. By the end of the year, we'll be at 1,000 stores in 5 states. We are focusing on states where the problem is definitely locking people out of living their life based on their own talents, dreams, and aspiration. So we will be focusing on New York, Atlanta, Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, Virginia, Maryland, Texas, and Minnesota. By solving that problem in those 5 states alone, we're talking more than $9 billion of total payment volume. That's already available. And that is not 10% of our local market. We're not only doing that in the US, we're also doing this overseas. We are in the process of launching Nigeria. We've launched a few countries in West Africa already. We are at negotiation phase right now with some central banks to help them digitize their economy. So, needless to say that we're very busy, extremely busy.
I told you, you went after a huge, a huge model.
Market.
As you scale, do you see Woody becoming more of a B2B infrastructure partner for banks and enterprise, or staying closer to consumer-led model?
Yeah. I do believe that people are not, at least for the next 10 to 15 years, people are not going to change their habits. They are not going to, like I said earlier, 67% of transactions in our target market are still conducted in cash. It's a big misconception in the financial world, whereas we think that a neobank with nice tech, a nice app, can just come into the market, grab the market share by providing everybody with their app. This is not a technological problem. It's a human problem that we're solving. And by solving that, people will still want to talk to people to do their transactions. And this is going to be even more present with all the deep fakes and financial scams that are happening because of AI. So the key is to make sure that we grow that network, B2B network, first with small businesses, having millions of stores within our network, and then be on the background, partner with these stores that provide the last mile financial solutions to the users, cash in, cash out, get a Visa card, open a bank account, transfer money to your parents, friends, and family overseas. We want to be in the background. Whereas when you go to the shop, you want to deposit money in your bank instantly, withdraw money, or make a wire transfer, that the shopkeeper is able to do that instantly within seconds without having to worry about technology. And because of that, our focus in the long term would be on the B2B side. Right now, it's sort of a B2B2C technology because we still provide last mile to the users, but that will be offloaded to the store owners.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's great. You are operating in a complex space with real world constraints, not just software. And what habits made the biggest difference for you as a CEO?
I see 2 or 3 habits. The first one is hard work. There's no shortcut. This is an industry where there is no shortcut. You have to work hard. You have to, the concept of work life balance is still a mystery to me. Since I used to work in the tech industry, right? I had a couchy job, well paid, well over six-figure salary, right? He touching, nearing the seven figures. You work 9 to 5, you come home, you have unlimited vacations, wonderful health insurance, takes your family to vacation. Like, what we do in France. I think you kind of know the concept, right? We're calling the couchy life. But since I started my tech companies, well, the concept of work-life balance just doesn't exist anymore. You are working 24/7, essentially. When you're sleeping, because this is a problem with staying up at night, in your dreams, you're thinking about how you will solve this specific problem the next day. So that's one. But hard work by itself is not only the solution. I think the most critical piece is trust. You have to have an biased mindset of trust, being able to protect your users, even if when they are not around. When you build in a financial company, across the board, the first client that would come knocking at the door, in most of the time, it's a client you generally don't want to work with, right? So, and once you open that door, you can close it. So you need to have that mindset from day one that every transaction that will go through this platform will be a transaction that meets the global financial security standards. This transaction is not to promote hate or sell prohibited items. And only the CEO of the company can bring that mindset to the rest of the team to follow. So there's a third one. I'm kind of forgetting about the third one because the second one is so massive that I can just stop at that point. Because if you don't have that, everything else just doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, that's right. Hard work and trust. I love it. Usman, thank you for joining. Strong insight into your journey, your industry, and the work you're doing at Woody. I have no word. It's beautiful. It's great. Great endeavor. Bravo. I wish you all the success, and we'll be talking many, many times and have you on the show again. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Definitely. Thank you, Laurent, for having me. Appreciate your time and consideration today. Thank you so much.
And where people can find you or read about your work.
Yes, I think LinkedIn is the area where it's the easiest to find me. You can just look up Wodi Money in LinkedIn or Wodi. Our hashtag is banking the unbanked. So with those hashtags, you can find me on all social media platforms. I think a lot of my social media accounts are public. So looking forward to connecting.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Usman.
Thank you so much, Laura.
And that's it for today's episode of AI InterConnect. If you enjoyed, share it with someone who's looking, who is building the future, or better yet, someone who should be. And until next time, stay curious, stay creative, and keep building. Thank you. See you very soon, Usman.
See you.